Our project was called Project Link, which was improving the communications in a cross-functional department for a company in the UK. Broke this down into 4 sections: the problem, the solution, the top constraints we faced, and the success we had. The problem was, for a communications company in the UK, it has employees split across a number of locations but who need to communicate to each other on a regular basis. Currently they use Microsoft Lync, which is a tool to use to make conferences, make phone calls and other activities, but there is no formal training or induction for how to use Lync within the company. This leads to the problem of employees not using the software as effectively as they should. This was a problem worth solving because without a proper introduction to Lync, the company suffers in a number of ways. Firstly, through cost efficiencies of people having to travel to meetings rather than using the software. Secondly, through time inefficiencies, through people having to go through a process of trial and error as they get to grips with the software. And thirdly, productivity inefficiencies as people don't use the software as well as they could. This project affects a number of stakeholders across the company. Firstly, marketing and the operational teams who actually use this to communicate with each other. Thirdly, the IT department who may consider it in their remit to control the flow of information for Lync. And fourthly, senior management who may decide that they should be the ones setting the strategy for communicating the benefits of Lync. So next was the solution that we came up with. Firstly, we followed a process that was outlined in the course structure on how to generate ideas and then select them. We first went through a process of idea generation where we went through a multitude of ideas amongst the group. We then assessed these ideas and whittled them down to a select few, and then finally selected the correct concept. After we came up with a multitude of ideas from which to select, we finally settled on one, which was to create documentation for Lync that would outline exactly how to use it, including hints and tips for new starters and those who had been using Lync for a long time. Then we focused on the top 3 constraints that we faced, and we decided that these were the individual constraints, the group constraints, and the organisational constraints, and these were 3 of the 6 from the course. So how did we overcome these constraints? The individual constraints, we firstly decided that the critical constraint here was expression. The information needed to overcome the constraint was the specific problems faced by employees when using Lync and the language that the end users use when describing Lync, so that we could effectively create a document that would enable these to be created. Finally, we generated the information needed by discussing problems with end users face to face, running workshops with end users, and using visuals in the document so it wasn't text heavy and explained our ideas clearly. The second constraint was the group constraints, and we decided that the process constraint was the most difficult one here. The best way, the information we needed to overcome this constraint was to find the best way of presenting information to the group, and we generated this information by gathering feedback from the group as to what they find acceptable and what they found useful in being put back to them. The third constraint was the organisational constraint, and we found that the structure constraint would be the biggest one here. The information we needed to overcome this constraint was who decides the strategy for communicating the benefits of Lync and who usually implements the strategy for communication benefits. How we went about generating the information needed was to seek out those who were owners of Lync, which was the IT department, and understand the process for communicating the benefits to the wider company. And the success measures we found when we implemented the solution, they were largely mixed, but we saw mostly positive feedback, although there was some negative feedback as well.